The fairy lights twinkled above the garden, casting a warm glow over the linen-draped tables. Laughter mingled with the clink of champagne glasses, and the scent of jasmine floated on the late summer breeze. It was our engagement party, the night I'd spent months planning, down to the last peony in the centerpieces. I stood in my emerald dress, smiling at our guests, friends, family, colleagues, all gathered to celebrate the life I thought I was building with Nathan. Then he raised his glass for a toast, his charming grin as familiar as ever. "To new beginnings," he said, his voice carrying over the crowd. "Because tonight, I'm choosing honesty. I'm sorry, Elise, but I can't marry you. I'm in love with someone else." The garden fell silent. 50 pairs of eyes turned to me, waiting for the tears, the screams, the collapse. My name is Elise Harper, and at 32, I'd just been publicly humiliated by the man I loved. But as Nathan stood there, smug in his tailored suit, he had no idea what was coming. I didn't cry. I didn't run. Instead, I lifted my glass, my hand steady despite the inferno raging in my chest. "To honesty," I said, my voice clear, cutting through the stunned silence like a blade. "And to consequences." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of shock and curiosity, and for a fleeting moment, Nathan's polished smile faltered, his eyes narrowing as if sensing a shift he couldn't name. I turned, my emerald dress swishing softly, and walked away, my heels clicking against the stone path with deliberate precision. The weight of every gaze pressed against my back, but I held my head high, refusing to give them the spectacle they expected. Behind me, Nathan's nervous laugh broke the silence, a desperate attempt to reclaim control. "Let's keep the party going, folks," he called, his voice too bright, too forced. But the damage was done. The night I'd poured my heart into was shattered, and with it, the illusion of the man I'd thought I knew. As I stepped into the cool night air, the jasmine scent now heavy and cloying, I made a vow to myself. Nathan would regret this, not with tears or tantrums, but with a justice so precise, so calculated, that only someone who'd loved him could deliver it. I wasn't the broken fiancé he expected. I was Elise Harper, and I was just beginning. Before that night, my life had been a carefully curated dream, a vibrant tapestry woven with ambition, love, and the quiet pride of building something my own. Charlotte, North Carolina, was my canvas, a city of warm days and bustling streets where opportunity hummed in the air. My job as a marketing consultant was the heartbeat of my days, a whirlwind of creativity and strategy played out in sleek downtown offices with floor-to-ceiling windows. I thrived on the rhythm, morning brainstorming sessions over steaming lattes, late nights tweaking PowerPoint slides until the perfect tagline clicked, celebratory drinks with my team at the rooftop bar when a client signed on the dotted line. I'd built a reputation for sharp, innovative campaigns, turning local businesses into brands with bold visuals and clever messaging. My latest project, a rebrand for a craft brewery, had just won a regional award, the plaque still sitting on my desk, its gold lettering catching the morning light. My apartment was my sanctuary, a cozy loft in the heart of Uptown, its exposed brick walls warmed by the glow of string lights. Bookshelves overflowed with novels and marketing journals, potted ferns spilled over windowsills, and framed photos of my travels, Paris, Tokyo, a windswept beach in Maine, lined the mantel. Mornings began with the hiss of my espresso machine, the bitter aroma of coffee mingling with the faint scent of lavender from a candle I'd lit. I'd sit at my reclaimed wood table, laptop open, sketching campaign ideas or answering emails, the city waking up outside my window. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, a delicate balance of work, friends, and the man I thought completed it, Nathan. We'd met 3 years ago at a charity gala, the kind of event where Charlotte's elite mingled under chandeliers, their laughter echoing over jazz music. Nathan stood out, his tailored suit impeccable, his easy charm disarming. A financial advisor with a rising career, he had a laugh that made you feel like the only person in the room, his green eyes crinkling at the corners. Our first conversation, over glasses of overpriced Merlot, stretched into hours, talks of ambition, family, the kind of life we wanted. He'd grown up in Raleigh, like me, his childhood shaped by a single mother who'd instilled a drive to succeed. I shared my own story, parents who'd pushed me to excel, a marketing degree earned through late-night study sessions, a dream to build a legacy. We clicked, our dreams aligning like stars in a constellation. Our relationship had been a whirlwind, each moment a brushstroke on the canvas of our future. Weekend trips to the Blue Ridge Mountains, where we'd hike trails lined with wildflowers, Nathan's hand warm in mine. Late-night talks on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket, planning a house with a big porch, a dog named Scout, maybe kids someday. I'd rearranged my life to fit his, skipping networking events to attend his work dinners, prioritizing our time over my own hobbies. When he proposed 6 months ago, on a quiet beach at sunset, the waves lapping at our feet, I'd said yes without a flicker of doubt, my heart swollen with certainty. The ring, a simple emerald-cut diamond, sparkled on my finger, a promise of forever. Planning the engagement party was my labor of love, a reflection of us, our joy, our future. I'd spent weeks obsessing over details, meeting caterers in bustling Charlotte cafes, choosing peonies for their soft elegance, designing invitations with hand-drawn flourishes. I'd curated a playlist of jazz and indie songs, each one tied to a memory, our first date, a rainy night in Asheville, a dance in my kitchen. Nathan was less involved, always citing work, his phone buzzing with client emails. "You're better at this stuff," he'd say, kissing my forehead. I didn't mind. I wanted it to be perfect for him, for us. My friends teased me about being a control freak, but I thrived on the process, the way it made our future feel tangible. My parents, who'd flown in from Raleigh, beamed with pride, my mother adjusting my dress before the party, her eyes misty. My best friend, Tara, a fiery graphic designer with a penchant for blunt honesty, helped me string the fairy lights, joking that I'd planned the night like a military operation. My mentor, Claire, a veteran marketer who'd taken me under her wing, sent a bottle of champagne with a note, to Elise, who makes everything shine. Everything was in place, a dream ready to unfold. But beneath the surface, fault lines were forming, ones I'd been too trusting, or too in love, to see. The signs of Nathan's betrayal were there, subtle at first, like whispers in a language I didn't want to understand. His late nights at the office had grown more frequent, his excuses polished to a sheen. Client dinners, he'd say, adjusting his tie, or a last-minute meeting with a big account. I'd nod, trusting his ambition, even when his phone buzzed at 2 a.m., and he'd turn the screen away, his fingers quick to dim the light. There were moments that pricked at my intuition, a new cologne, sharp and unfamiliar, lingering on his jacket, a receipt for a French restaurant in Dilworth, a place we'd never been, tucked in his pocket. I'd found it while doing laundry, the date stamped for a night he'd claimed to be working late. Once, I'd seen a text from someone named Alex flash across his phone, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My stomach had twisted, but when I asked, he'd laughed, his voice smooth as silk. "Just a client's assistant, babe. Overeager about a deal." I'd let it go, hating the doubt that crept into my heart, blaming myself for questioning the man I loved. His affection had cooled, too, the changes so gradual I barely noticed. The spontaneous kisses, the way he'd pull me close while we cooked pasta in my kitchen, laughing over spilled sauce, they faded, replaced by distracted smiles, his eyes darting to his phone. "We'll talk later," he'd say, brushing off my attempts to connect. I chalked it up to wedding stress, his demanding job, the chaos of life. But the unease grew, a knot in my stomach I couldn't untie. Tara had noticed it before I did. One evening, as we sat in her cluttered studio, surrounded by paint cans and half-finished canvases, she'd fixed me with a hard stare. "He's different, Elise. Distant. You're not imagining it." I deflected, sipping my wine, insisting it was just work. But her words lingered, a seed of doubt taking root. At work, my coworker, Jenna, a bubbly account manager, had caught me staring at my ring during a meeting. "You okay?" she'd asked, her voice soft. I'd confessed my worries, and she'd hesitated before saying, "I saw Nathan at a bar last week. He was with a woman." I didn't think much of it, but she trailed off, and I'd forced a smile, dismissing it as a client. But the knot tightened, my intuition screaming what my heart refused to hear. Then, 2 weeks before the party, I found the email that shattered my denial. I'd borrowed Nathan's laptop to send an invitation draft, my own device dead from a long day. An open tab in his inbox stared back at me, a message from Alexandra Reed, his co-worker at the financial firm. A heart emoji punctuated the subject line, and the words below it hit like a punch: "I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we tell everyone? I hate hiding this." My breath caught, the room spinning as I clicked through more emails, each one a deeper wound. Plans for a weekend in Savannah, pet names like "Darling," promises of a life together. Alexandra was the someone else, her red hair and sharp smile vivid in my memory from a company event I'd attended with Nathan. They'd been planning this for months, their affair a secret woven through the fabric of our engagement. I didn't confront him. Not yet. The betrayal burned, a fire in my veins, but so did my resolve. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling, and began to think. Nathan thought he could rewrite our story, but I'd been crafting my own ending all along. The garden that night was a stage, and Nathan had played his role with cruel precision. His words, "I'm in love with someone else," hung in the air, a guillotine slicing through the life I'd built. The fairy lights blurred into streaks of gold, my chest tightening as rage and grief battled within me. I saw my parents' faces, pale with shock, my mother's hand clutching my father's arm, her eyes wide with disbelief. Tara's jaw dropped, her champagne glass frozen midair, her expression a mix of fury and heartbreak. My co-workers, who'd toasted my success just days ago, exchanged awkward glances, their whispers swallowed by the silence. And there, at the edge of the crowd, stood Alexandra, her red dress a stark contrast to the garden's muted tones, her eyes glinting with something like triumph, her lips curved in a faint, victorious smile. Every instinct screamed to lash out, to storm across the garden and demand answers, to shatter Nathan's smug facade with a scene that would match the drama of his betrayal. I could have screamed, thrown my glass, let the tears I felt burning spill over. But I didn't. I'd spent years honing my career on strategy, on staying calm under the pressure of boardroom pitches and client crises. This was no different, just a higher stake, a sharper blade. Nathan wanted me to crumble, to give him the satisfaction of my pain, to play the role of the scorned fiancé for his audience. Instead, I'd give him something else, a reckoning, cold and calculated, delivered with the precision of a woman who'd learned to trust herself. I raised my glass, my voice steady, and spoke my truth. As I walked away, the murmurs of the crowd faded, Nathan's laugh a hollow echo. I wasn't running. I was choosing my battlefield. In the days leading up to the party, I'd been quietly preparing, though I hadn't fully admitted it to myself. The emails had been a wake-up call, a brutal unraveling of the trust I'd placed in Nathan. But they weren't the only evidence. I'd started digging, my marketing instincts, honed by years of analyzing data and spotting patterns, kicking into overdrive. I checked our shared credit card statements, my fingers scrolling through months of transactions on my phone. There they were, charges for boutique hotels in Charleston, a jeweler in South Park, dinners at upscale restaurants I'd never visited. Each entry was a betrayal, a piece of Nathan's secret life funded by the account we'd opened for our wedding. I logged into his cloud account, using the password he'd never bothered to change, a lazy oversight that now worked in my favor. The photos I found there, Nathan and Alexandra at a vineyard, her head on his shoulder, his smile brighter than it had been with me in months, were daggers, each one sharper than the last. I saved everything, screenshots and PDFs, storing them in a private folder I named Insurance. I didn't know what I'd do with it, not then, but I knew knowledge was power. I'd spent too long being the trusting fiancé, the woman who believed love meant overlooking red flags. No more. I called Claire, my mentor, who'd navigated her own divorce years ago. Over coffee at a quiet cafe, her silver hair catching the light, she listened as I poured out my fears. "You're stronger than you think," she said, her voice firm. "Use what you know, Elise. Protect yourself." Her words were a spark, igniting a plan I hadn't yet voiced. I wasn't just gathering evidence, I was building a shield, a weapon, a way to take back control. That night, as I drove to Tara's apartment, the city lights of Charlotte streaked past like my racing thoughts. Tara was waiting, her door flung open before I could knock, her face a storm of anger and loyalty. "He's a coward," she spat, pouring me a glass of Pinot Noir, the bottle clinking against the counter. "And Alexandra?" She was smirking, Elise. Smirking, like she'd won some prize. I nodded, sipping the wine, its bitterness mirroring the acid in my throat. I said, my voice low. "But they're not getting away with this." Tara's eyes narrowed, her artist's hands pausing mid-gesture. "What do you mean? What's the plan?" I didn't answer fully, the details still forming, a puzzle I was piecing together. "I'm working on it," I said, offering a small, determined smile. She didn't push, but her nod was a promise, she'd be there, no matter what. I spent that night on her couch, the city's hum filtering through the window, my mind replaying every moment of the party, every sign I'd missed, every promise Nathan had broken. By morning, the fog of pain had cleared, replaced by a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I wouldn't just survive this. I'd make Nathan and Alexandra pay for every second of their arrogance, not with chaos, but with a strategy as sharp as their betrayal. The next morning, I woke with a purpose that burned brighter than my pain. The ache in my chest lingered, a dull reminder of Nathan's cruelty, but it was overshadowed by a resolve as unyielding as steel. I sat at Tara's kitchen table, the wood worn from years of shared meals, my laptop open, the insurance folder a glowing beacon on the screen. I started with the financials, the cold numbers a stark contrast to the warmth of my anger. Nathan and I had opened a joint account for wedding expenses, caterers, venues, the peonies I'd chosen with such care. We'd both contributed, but the charges I'd found, hotels in Charleston, a $1,200 necklace, dinners at steakhouses I'd never seen, were all on that card, not his personal one. He'd been using our shared money to fund his affair, assuming I'd be too distracted, too trusting, to notice. I called my bank, my voice steady as I explained the situation to a representative named Karen, her tone warm with empathy. "I need to freeze the joint account and remove an authorized user," I said, my fingers gripping the phone. Karen processed the request in minutes, her efficiency a small victory. By noon, the account was locked, Nathan's access severed. He'd find out soon, and I wanted him to feel the walls closing in. Next, I contacted Sarah Coleman, a lawyer I'd worked with on business contracts, her sharp mind a perfect match for my needs. I emailed her the screenshots, credit card statements, and a detailed account of the party, each word typed with a precision born of anger. "I want to protect myself," I told her over the phone, pacing Tara's living room, the morning light streaming through the blinds. "And I want him to face consequences." Sarah's voice was calm, professional, but laced with a steel I admired. "He's committed financial fraud by using joint funds for personal expenses without your consent. The public humiliation could also support a claim for emotional distress, though that's trickier. We'll start with a cease and desist letter, demanding repayment of the misused funds and warning of further action." I felt a spark of satisfaction, a flicker of power returning. Nathan thought he'd walked away clean, his betrayal a clean cut. But I was stitching a net around him, one he wouldn't see until it was too late. Claire stopped by that afternoon, her presence a grounding force. We sat on Tara's balcony, the city sprawling below, and she shared her own story, a husband who'd cheated, a career she'd rebuilt. "You're not just fighting for yourself," she said, her eyes steady. "You're fighting for every woman who's been underestimated." Her words fueled me, a reminder that this wasn't just personal, it was a stand. I spent the evening reviewing my evidence, organizing the screenshots into a timeline, each date and charge a nail in Nathan's coffin. My parents called, their voices heavy with guilt. "We should have seen it," my mother said, her words shaky. I didn't blame them, but their support strengthened my resolve. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't powerless. The turning point came that afternoon when I remembered the business deal, a joint venture that had been our shared ambition. Nathan and I had been developing a financial planning app, a tool to simplify budgeting for young professionals. I designed the marketing strategy, sleek branding, viral social media campaigns, a pitch deck that had wowed investors. Nathan had handled the financial models, his spreadsheets meticulous but uninspired. We'd signed a contract with Michael Grant, a venture capitalist with a reputation for backing winners, but the deal wasn't finalized, the ink still wet on our agreement. And here was the twist that changed everything: the contract was in my name, not his. Nathan had insisted I sign as the primary partner, arguing it would look good for a woman-led startup in a male-dominated industry. I'd agreed, flattered by his confidence, not thinking much of it at the time. Now, it was my trump card, a lever I could pull to shift the balance of power. I called Michael, my tone professional despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Nathan and I are no longer partners," I said, standing in Tara's kitchen, the scent of her morning coffee lingering. "I'd like to move forward independently, with my marketing strategy as the core of the project." Michael was surprised, his voice cautious but intrigued. "Your pitch was the strongest part of the deal," he admitted. "The branding, the user engagement plan, that was all you. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss next steps." I hung up, my heart pounding, a smile breaking through the pain. I'd just taken the first step toward cutting Nathan out of the deal he thought was his, a $2 million opportunity he'd counted on to catapult his career. He'd underestimated me, and that was his first mistake. Over the next few days, I moved with the precision of a chess master, each action a calculated move in a game Nathan didn't know he was playing. I met Michael at his sleek office in South End, the Charlotte skyline visible through the glass walls. I'd spent the night preparing, refining my pitch to emphasize my role, the branding, the social media strategy, the user acquisition plan that had impressed him. I downplayed Nathan's contributions, not out of spite but truth. His financial models were solid but replaceable, while my vision was the heart of the app. Michael listened, his pen tapping against a notepad, his questions sharp but fair. "You're confident you can lead this alone?" he asked, his eyes assessing. I met his gaze, my voice steady. "I've been leading it from the start." He nodded, a smile breaking through. "Let's move forward. I'll have the contract revised to name you as the sole lead by the end of the week." I left the meeting buoyant, the weight of Nathan's betrayal lighter with each step. I didn't tell Nathan. Let him believe the deal was still ours, his arrogance blinding him to the trap I was setting. Meanwhile, Sarah drafted the cease and desist letter, a legal missile aimed at Nathan's complacency. It demanded repayment of the $8,000 he'd misused from the joint account, every hotel stay, every gift to Alexandra, every dinner charged to our shared funds. It warned of further action, including a potential lawsuit for fraud, if he didn't comply within 14 days. I had it delivered to his office, a glass-walled space in Uptown where Alexandra worked just down the hall. I wanted them both to feel the pressure, to know their secret was unraveling. Sarah called to confirm delivery, her voice tinged with satisfaction. "The courier said Nathan looked like he'd seen a ghost," she said. I smiled, imagining his polished facade cracking, Alexandra's smugness faltering as the letter landed on his desk. Then came the social media play, a strategy born of my marketing expertise. Nathan and Alexandra had been brazen, posting photos together the day after the party, their smiles smug as they posed at a rooftop bar, the Charlotte skyline glittering behind them. Their captions were coy, new chapters, new adventures, but the message was clear: they'd won, and I was the loser. I didn't lash out online, didn't stoop to their level with public rants or tearful posts. Instead, I used my skills, crafting a private group chat with our mutual friends, college buddies, work colleagues, even a few of Nathan's golf friends. I shared the truth, not with venom but with facts: the emails, the credit card charges, the timeline of their affair, laid out like a campaign brief. I didn't embellish, the evidence was damning enough. By evening, the chat was a firestorm of outrage. "He did what?" wrote Jenna, my co-worker, her words punctuated with angry emojis. "I'm unfollowing him right now," said Mark, a friend from Nathan's gym. Claire, my mentor, messaged privately, "You're handling this with grace, Elise. I'm proud." The group chat grew, friends adding others, the truth spreading like wildfire. Nathan's social capital, his carefully curated image as the charming advisor, began to crumble. Alexandra's posts, once flooded with likes, went silent, her followers dwindling as mutual acquaintances pulled away. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Their own actions were their undoing, and I'd simply lit the match. The consequences hit Nathan like a tidal wave, faster than I'd anticipated. He called me the next day, his voice a chaotic blend of panic and anger, the polished advisor replaced by a man scrambling to save himself. "What the hell, Elise? You froze the account. You're spreading lies about me." I let him rant, his words a storm I weathered in silence, my calm more powerful than any retort. When he paused, gasping for breath, I spoke, my tone ice-cold, each word deliberate. "You used our money to fund your affair, Nathan. You humiliated me in front of everyone we know. Did you think I'd just let it go?" He stammered, his voice cracking as he tried to backtrack. "It wasn't like that. Alexandra and we didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed in Tara's quiet living room. "It just happened. You announced it at our engagement party. You chose the stage, Nathan. I'm just choosing the ending." I hung up, my heart pounding, my resolve a fortress he couldn't breach. He tried to confront me in person, showing up at Tara's apartment that evening, his suit rumpled, his eyes wild. Tara blocked the door, her arms crossed, her voice a low growl. "You're not welcome here, Nathan. Leave." He ignored her, calling my name, his tone pleading now. "Elise, please, let's talk. This is getting out of hand." I stepped into the doorway, my gaze steady. "Out of hand? You spent our money on your girlfriend and dumped me in front of our families. What's out of hand is your arrogance." He flinched, his charm useless against my clarity. "I made a mistake," he said, his voice breaking. "Can't we fix this?" I shook my head, my voice calm but final. "You fixed it when you chose her. Now deal with the consequences." Tara shut the door, her smile fierce, and I felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering loyalty. The investor meeting was the next blow, a masterstroke I'd planned with meticulous care. Michael signed the contract 2 days later, officially naming me the sole lead on the app project, a $2 million deal with potential for millions more if the launch succeeded. I'd spent hours refining the pitch, incorporating feedback from Claire, who'd reviewed my slides with a critical eye. "This is your moment," she'd said, her voice warm. "Own it." I did, presenting with a confidence born of necessity, my vision for the app: accessible, user-friendly, revolutionary, captivating Michael's team. The press release went live the next morning, announcing the partnership in my name alone, my photo splashed across industry blogs. Nathan's texts flooded my phone, each one more desperate. "You can't do this, Elise. That was our project. You're stealing my future." I didn't respond. His name wasn't on the contract, his role diminished by his own hubris. The deal he'd counted on to boost his career was mine, and he'd learned the cost of underestimating me. Socially, Nathan and Alexandra were unraveling, their world shrinking with each passing day. Friends stopped inviting them to dinners, their social media posts went unliked, and whispers followed them at work. Jenna told me Alexandra had been sidelined at the firm, her projects reassigned after the cease and desist letter exposed their affair. Her LinkedIn profile showed she'd left, her departure abrupt, likely forced by the scandal. Nathan tried to save face, posting about new opportunities and fresh starts, but the cracks were visible, his charm no match for the truth. A mutual friend, Lisa, called to apologize for attending the party. "I had no idea," she said, her voice thick with guilt. "He played us all." I thanked her, my heart warmed by her support, but I didn't dwell. Their downfall was their own creation, and I'd simply given them the rope to hang themselves. The aftermath was a crucible, forging me anew even as it tested my strength. I moved out of our shared apartment, the space tainted by Nathan's presence, his cologne in the air, his golf clubs in the closet, his lies in every corner. I rented a new loft closer to my office, smaller but brighter, with white walls and wide windows that let in the morning sun. I furnished it slowly, choosing pieces that felt like me, a velvet sofa, a vintage rug, a shelf for my travel photos. The move was exhausting, my heart heavy with the loss of the life I'd planned, but it was also liberating, a fresh canvas for the woman I was becoming. I threw myself into the app project, working late nights with a team that respected my vision, their energy a balm for my wounds. But the pain resurfaced in quiet moments, seeing a couple holding hands at a cafe, finding an old photo of Nathan and me tucked in a book, his arm around me, our smiles bright with promise. I let myself grieve, not for him, but for the future I'd believed in, the love I'd thought was real. Tara was my anchor, dragging me to yoga classes where I stretched out my anger, to karaoke nights where we belted out power ballads, her laughter pulling me back to myself. My parents visited, their guilt palpable as they helped me unpack, my mother arranging my bookshelves, my father fixing a wobbly table. "We should have seen it," my mother said, her voice breaking. "We thought he was perfect." I hugged her, absolving their blindness. "I thought so too," I said, and we rebuilt our bond, their love a steady presence. Claire invited me to a women's networking event, introducing me to other entrepreneurs whose stories of resilience mirrored mine. Jenna organized team lunches, her chatter about office gossip a welcome distraction. Their support was a tapestry, weaving me back together, thread by thread. Financially, Nathan was floundering, the cease and desist letter a noose tightening around him. Sarah's demand for $8,000, the exact amount he'd spent on Alexandra's gifts and trips, hit him hard. He tried to negotiate, sending Sarah an email claiming he couldn't afford it, but she was relentless. "Pay, or we go to court," she told him, her voice unyielding. He paid, draining his savings, his lifestyle shrinking with each transfer. His clients, hearing whispers of his ethics, began to defect, their trust eroded by the scandal. A local business blog ran a piece on the app deal, praising my leadership but omitting Nathan entirely, a silent erasure of his role. Sarah called it poetic justice. I called it consequences, the natural outcome of his choices. The app project consumed my days, a beacon of purpose in the chaos. I collaborated with developers, refining the user interface, testing features to ensure accessibility. There were setbacks, bugs in the code, debates over branding, but my team's dedication, fueled by my vision, kept us on track. Industry blogs began to notice, publishing previews of the app with headlines like, "Charlotte Innovator Redefines Financial Tech." Claire sent me the links, her email simple, "You're unstoppable." My confidence grew, not just in my work but in myself, a woman who'd faced betrayal and chosen to rise. 6 months later, I stood on a stage at a Charlotte Tech Summit, presenting the app to a packed auditorium. The launch had shattered expectations, with 50,000 downloads in the first week, its sleek design and intuitive features earning rave reviews. I'd spent weeks preparing, rehearsing with Claire, refining every slide to reflect my journey, not just the app, but the woman who'd built it. As I spoke, my voice steady, I caught sight of Nathan in the back row, his suit slightly wrinkled, his expression a mix of resentment and awe. He'd come to see me succeed, perhaps hoping to cling to the project's shadow, to claim some piece of my victory. I didn't acknowledge him. I didn't need to. My focus was on the audience, their applause a validation of my work, my strength. After the talk, a young woman approached, her eyes bright with ambition. "Your story inspires me," she said, clutching a notebook. "How did you keep going after everything?" I smiled, thinking of the garden, the fairy lights, the moment I'd chosen myself. "You decide who gets to write your ending," I told her, my voice warm with conviction. That evening, I mentored a junior colleague, Rachel, who'd joined my team, her enthusiasm a mirror of my own early days. We sat in my office, brainstorming campaign ideas, her questions sparking new directions for the app. Claire joined us, her presence a reminder of the women who'd lifted me up. Back at my loft that night, I poured a glass of Pinot Noir and sat on my balcony, the city skyline glittering below, a constellation of possibility. The pain of Nathan's betrayal was a faint echo now, drowned out by the life I'd built. The app was thriving, with partnerships forming across the Southeast, my name synonymous with innovation. My speaking engagements grew, from local summits to national conferences, each one a chance to inspire others. I thought of Nathan, alone in his diminished world, his career stalled, his charm no match for the truth. Alexandra had faded, chasing her next fleeting thrill, her social media silent. They'd thought they could break me, but they'd only set me free. I'd taken the pen and written a better story, one of resilience, power, and a future I'd crafted on my own terms. What do you do when someone tries to rewrite your life? You seize the narrative and make it yours.